Welcome everybody to a review of a new collection from 101 Films, and it is the Bob Clark Horror Collection. So you do get a little, well, you would originally get a little sleeve to go over that, but yeah, I prefer it without it. So yeah, really rather nicely done artwork with this, a nice solid box as well. It's not going to give way at any moment. So yeah, three of his films before he moved on to more comedic and family orientated films, like A Christmas Story, and yeah, the first of which is 1972's Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Now, the title is pretty cool, but it doesn't make much sense in the context of the film, as there are no actual children in this, although one of the characters does refer to the others as children. And yeah, clocks in at 86 minutes long, had a budget of only $50,000, and yeah, stars Alan Ormsby, who had a minor role in the next film that we'll look at, but he's most well known as a screenwriter. He co-wrote Cat People, the 1982 version, as well as the second film in this collection as well. So yeah, and it's about six actors who go to a graveyard on a remote island to act out a necromantic ritual. The ritual works, and soon the dead are walking about and chowing down on human flesh. Now, if this comedy horror, as it is, didn't combine all of its zombie action in the finale, I would have easily enjoyed this slightly more. But despite its budget limitations and the fact it is all characterization and attempts at comedy for the first hour, I did find this ultimately to be engrossing, as well as having a few laughs. The setting is also great, with the island and its graveyard being enveloped in rolling fog and eerie lighting, providing plenty of spooky atmosphere. It is well paced. The cast, despite being amateurs at the time, have their moments. I like the score, and considering the extremely low budget, the makeup along with the violence are effective enough. But yeah, the main issue with this film is the fact that, like I said, it confines most of the zombie action to the final 20 or so minutes, which probably is going to be a little bit grating for some people. Depends whether or not you get along with its comedy aspect and the characters, but I, for the most part, enjoyed them, and yeah, their adventure around this island. So yeah, but then from 1974 we have Death Dream, also known as Dead of Night, which is the title I've gone for the cover. But as you can see by the little the card that you get around it, they also go for Death Dream on there as well. So I wish they'd make the mind up on which title they're going for, but still, Dead of Night is a good enough title on its own. So yeah, this clock's in 88 minutes long, so slightly longer than the previous film, but it's on a budget of $300,000, so six times the budget as the previous film, and it really does show. And especially since you've got a couple of actors that have been in stuff before that you might have heard of. Stars John Marley, who was in The Godfather, The Car, It Lives Again, The Mob, and Motherload, as well as Jane Daly, who was in the previous film, but she was also in Mission Impossible 3 as Julia's mother, who was the wife of Tom Cruise's character. So, yeah, a young soldier who was thought to be killed in the line of duty in Vietnam returns home shortly thereafter, much to the confusion of his family. Upon his return, he exhibits strange, withdrawn behaviour and begins wandering the streets at night. So, yeah, not only is this better than the prior effort that we've just looked at, but it is genuinely great in its own right. This is thanks to the cast being really good, having a highly engrossing plot. The score is well done. It is wholly works as a horror film, unlike the previous film, which was mostly a comedy, and then it only in the finale got into any kind of horror element. And yeah, the themes are well realised, you know, in terms of don't wish for what you want, as sometimes you can get what you want, but not necessarily how you would expect it to be. And yeah, the pacing is on point, the violence is well handled, and the gradual build-up of dread which that forms around our lead characters as they come to a horrifying conclusion is really rather effective. So yeah, superb effort, really did like it, and yeah, noticeable improvement, not just in terms of the production, because obviously this giant increase in budget production, but also just in general in terms of acting and the cinematography, the editing, the sets, and all of that were just generally a big step up over the prior film. And then finally, probably the most well-known film out of this collection is Black Christmas from 1974. Now, this has been released by 101 Films before, so it's no real surprise that they've included it in this collection, and no doubt the reason that this collection ever got off the ground in the first place is that they already had the rights to one of the films anyway. So yeah, and this clock's in 98 minutes long, so the longest film of the three. It's also got the biggest production budget as well at $686,000. And yeah, stars Olivia Hussey, who was also in Death on the Nile, the 1978 version, as well as Margot Kidder, who was in the Superman quadrilogy, The Amityville Horror, and Sisters from the year before this, as well as John Saxon, who was in 3 of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, From Dusk Till Dawn, Tenebrae, and The Girl Who Knew Too Much, both of which were Giallo films, as well as Joe Kidd and Enter the Dragon. And yeah, this is about a sorority house that is terrorised by a stranger who makes frightening phone calls and then murders the sorority sisters during Christmas break. So yeah, though this slasher film was overlooked as soon as the likes of Halloween was released 4 years later, that wasn't entirely justified. As yes, this isn't as good as that John Carpenter effort, but it is still, for the most part, an effective effort. And yeah, the cast is also good. It is deeply atmospheric. The score is decent. It is well shot, solidly paced, features plenty of tension, and those phone calls with the killer are creepy. Just a shame though that it is ultimately not all that much fun, and it has several predictable moments, while the ending no one expected could have been a little bit more satisfying. So yeah, overall this collection is really, really solid. I'd give them Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things 3 out of 5. Show you the disc off. Then I give Dead of Night 4.5 out of 5. Really impressed with this. Might have been somewhat down to the fact that the previous film that I watched prior was a little bit underwhelming in some respects, but generally did enjoy this a lot. And yeah, really, really well done. It was nice to see the improvements in filmmaking over the prior film. And then I'd give Black Christmas 3.5 out of 5. Still a really good film and a highly respectable effort, especially given its influence on the slasher genre. But for me, it's just not quite fun enough like other slasher films from the 70s were. So yeah, and you do get alternative artworks for each of these films, but I'll show you them in terms of their art cards that you get instead. So yeah, that's for Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Then Death Dream, also known as Dead of Night. And finally, Black Christmas. So yeah, you also get a nice booklet with this as well, which, yeah, has shots from the films, plus write-ups as well. We've got Bob Clark in the 70s, A Decade of Dread, which, yeah, not sure who this is written by. I'm sure it should say it on the back. No. Oh, wait. No, it doesn't. Oh well. But yeah, like I said, it's got shots from the film. So there's Dead of Night. And yeah, it's a pretty substantial write-up. It goes across all 3 films, talks about each of them. And yeah, you've also got a bunch of extras on the discs themselves. So you've got commentary with Alan Ormsby, Jane Daly, and Anya Cronin, who starred in the first film. You got an Alan Ormsby interview. You got Memories of Bob Clark, Confessions of a Gravedigger interview with Ken Gock. Again, I think he was in the or part of the first film. Then you got a Grindhouse Q&A, Cemetery Mary music video, Dead Girls Don't Say No music video trailer, and photo gallery. That's on the first film. Then on the second, you got Dreaming of Death, a brand new feature-length documentary on the work of director Bob Clark, and brand new audio commentary with Travis Crawford and Bill Ackerman, as well as the trailer. And with Black Christmas, audio commentary with director Bob Clark, audio commentary with actors John Saxon and Keir Dullea, audio commentary with actor Nick Mancuso, Film and Furs, Remembering Black Christmas with Art Hindle, Victims and Virgins, Remembering Black Christmas with Lynn Griffin, Black Christmas Legacy, 40th Anniversary Reunion Panel at the Fan Expo in Canada of 2014, TV and radio spots, 12 Days of Black Christmas featurette, Black Christmas Revisited featurette, midnight screening Q&A with Bob Clark, John Saxon, and Carl Zitier, who was the composer for that final film. So yeah, overall a really rather solid collection. It's a little bit on the expensive side though, granted it was £45, which if you've already got Black Christmas, like I said, this has already had a release by 101 Films, and it might well not be an all that, you know, enticing purchase given its expense, but I overall enjoy all 3 films in their own respective rights, and yeah, I would have preferred it to win cheaper. To be honest, I could have lived without Black Christmas being part of this collection because it's a more well-known film. It's a film that's had a release already. It doesn't necessarily need to be given this, box set treatment. Whereas, had the two films on their own be released, I'd say like £30, I would have highly recommended it because you've got an excellent film in Dead of Night, and then you've got a really rather solid first effort in Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. So, yeah, but still, really rather like it. I like the presentation of it with the box, the booklet and the free art cards, and yeah, the artwork overall, especially on these two, are well done. So yeah, so if you're into your 70s horror, more especially in terms of lesser known 70s horror, especially in regards to the first two films, then I would highly recommend it. But if you're a little just getting into these kind of films, then I would recommend renting them or streaming them first, and then buying it if you enjoy them enough. So yeah, but nonetheless, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy these films if you've seen them, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on them. But I'll see you in the next one. Bye.